I think you're going to learn a lot from Matthew Smith. He is an assistant coach at Washington State, and he had a great career, and he's found a way, which I think you're going to be interested to hear about, coaches, a way to create value for yourself, to make yourself invaluable. How do I make myself important? How do I make myself more valuable to the staff? How do I contribute to winning and the quality of the program? So let's start there. Why don't you share a few of those things you think coaches could benefit from to make yourself invaluable?
Well, I think as I was a young coach coming up, I was in California and I was in high school, and I was just trying to think of ways that I could break into the next level, that I could get to I wanted to be a collegiate coach. And so, I went to the Final Four in Columbus for the first time, and I met a mentor of mine said, "Hey, you should go to the women's Final Four and meet some people." So I went with a mentor of mine. I'll tell you who it is, Colleen Matsuhara, who's a retired women's basketball coach, a legend, who I met on a cold email. She took me under her wing at a Final Four, and I met a ton of coaches. And I started hearing about different ways that you could expand your knowledge of the game. PGC, a step up, all these different symposiums and conferences. And it blew my mind that there's all these other things aside from the podcast that I was already listening to, but things you could do in person. And so I came back from that Final Four with a list of about 8 things that I was gonna better myself in coaching. And PGC was at the top of the list. So when I got back, this was in 2017, I think, I went to UC Santa Barbara for, I want to say it was 4 days, and I stayed overnight, and it was a bargain. And it changed my life. It changed how I thought about coaching. It changed the concepts that I was exposed to, the camaraderie and teamwork that you see, just the enthusiasm for the game and for teaching the game. It just took me to another level. It took the way I thought about the game to another level. And I haven't been the same since. And I was telling you off camera a minute ago that when I hear of a recruit or a coach that has a PGC background, I mean, my ears perk up. I immediately, they have my ear, have my respect level. Back to finding a mentor. I think that is, like you said, Sam, one of the most important things a young coach can do is find someone that has knowledge of the game, that can advise you in your decisions and can help you. I mean, Colleen took me to probably 25 Division I practices in LA, Pepperdine, UCLA, all these different programs, because she had friends on the staffs, and I was exposed to their practices. I got to see what they were doing. I got to meet the coaches, and it wasn't like, "Hey, can I have a job next week?" It was just like, "Hey, how are you? We're meeting as peers." I was a young high school coach, and I was kind of stagnating, and my development wasn't really increasing. And so I just started kind of looking around all the coaches in the area in Los Angeles, and I fired off probably 25 cold emails. And she was the first to get back to me. And I just asked to go see a practice. If you want to immediately meet someone, you ask if you can go watch a practice, or you ask if they have 10 minutes just to talk basketball with you. I don't know any coach that will say, "No, I don't have time for a young coach that, wants to talk basketball or come see a practice." Those coaches might exist that have closed practices, but every coach I've been around welcomes people in their practice. And so that was a really door opener for me, just going and seeing her practice. She walked me around West LA College, her campus. And then that cold email developed into one of the strongest friendships and mentorships that I have today. I still talk to her at least twice a month, and it's just changed my life along with PGC. But having that mentor that can help you and that can give you good advice in your career, in your life, in your marriage, in your raising kids, like just having good mentors around, I can't stress it enough. When you start working around a new group of people, you got to kind of read the room and see what people are doing well, what people are missing. You got to kind of see the blind spots. And so I was a volunteer coach for West LA College. And as you guys know, at junior college level in California, you have very few resources. And so I was a volunteer coach. I wasn't getting paid a dime, and I took it like I was at a Final Four team in the Division I. I was always there. I was at every summer workout. I trained the staff on Synergy. That was the first year that we'd use Synergy at West LA College. And I realized that there's this whole layer of information that nobody was dealing with. There's, on Synergy, when you really dive into it, you can find out a lot. Left, right drive tendencies, left, right shoulder tendencies in the post. Just to be real basic, from a 30,000 foot view, you can look at a team's efficiency in transition, offensive rebounding, defensive rebounding. You can find out a lot of information. So initially for West LA College, I just started just devouring Synergy and finding out whatever I could and then relaying that to my head coach and the other coaches on the staff. And I think that just that, I became an expert and they respected me for really being the expert on Synergy and being an expert on the numbers. And that it was a level of respect. My head coach would say, hey, at any time during the game, he would turn to me and ask me, like, what's her 3-point percentage off the dribble? And I would know. You know what I mean? Like, I'd have all those answers. And imagine as a head coach, that's valuable having someone on staff that can answer at the tip of their tongue whatever information you need about that opponent. And so from the very beginning in my West LA College career, I just owned it. I owned the numbers, the analytics, and then I took that with me when the following season I was lucky enough to get hired at UCLA as a video intern, and I did the same thing.
But what are like the three big analytics y'all value and are looking a lot at, and how it impacts winning?
A few times a year we'll do a self scout, right? Where we'll really analyze our own team. But I think where it really helps us the most is in our opponent scouting. And we'll have a full analytics report on each opponent all the way through the season. Like I mentioned, a few of the things that are really the low hanging fruit, right? Those are the left, right drive. Those are the left, right shoulder. I mean, you can do so much with just knowing a player tendency in the post and making them go to a 35% shot with their left hand rather than a 77% shot with their right hand. I mean, I think on another level, you can dive into who you want to be in the pick and roll, for example. Like if they have two guards that are really talented, but one of them is just unstoppable in the pick and roll efficiency wise with making decisions, passing, taking the right shot. But then you know that their secondary guard isn't quite as good and really hunts her own shot and doesn't find the other people. If you can get it in that person's hands in the final 6 seconds, they're going to be the one in ball screen. And so just those little things about an opponent, getting the right personnel in those, who you want to be in those spots can make a big difference. It can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think for coaches listening, you may or may not have access to all of the analytical stuff that's out there, but here, I think there's two things to hear that are really important there. One is that y'all do a self-scout. I mean, I've heard a coach one time say that the goal should be to be an expert on your team. And I think so many times we can get into a season and not actually be the expert on our team because we're so much paying attention to other teams. But periodically doing a self-scout can help you be an expert on your team and better coach your team, which can lead to, 4 or 5 points a game, which is the difference in winning and losing. And then the same thing when you're looking at opponents, if they're 55% over their left shoulder and they're 35% over their right shoulder, that also is the difference in winning and losing. And then when you start stacking these little things, like be an expert on your team, that's 4 points. Be an expert on how to defend the post, that's 4 points. Even a high school coach might not have the numbers, but could go look at a player and be like, wow, they're really good, but every single time it was over their left shoulder. Let's make them go over their right shoulder. And that's, not an analytic from numbers, but it is, if you're looking for that stuff, you're finding, you might not know exactly 35, 55, but for sure that person's better over that shoulder. And that's stacking little things that are going to help you win. And I think that makes us a better coach when we're able to look for those things.
Basically, when you're hired somewhere and you're trying to figure out your role and where you're going to be invaluable, like you said, if you just start with doing the things that nobody wants to do, you're going to go a long way because it might be the dirty work. It might be making sure the balls are pumped before practice. It might be sweeping the floor. It might be doing graphics. Doing graphics is huge. Every program needs that. One of the things that no one wanted to do on our staff when we had an official visit was make sure that the photo shoot was logistically, everything was in order. And so, I don't know how, on your programs how it works, but when we have an official visit, we'll have 48 hours of things, and there'll be an hour in there on the first or second day where we have a photo shoot with the player. And nobody wanted to book the photographer, make sure that all the props were there, make sure the balloons were there. I mean, there's a whole list of the logistics that nobody wanted to touch. I got it. I owned it. Like the very first photo shoot, there was something missing. My head coach said something, and there was never a thing missing again, ever. He never has to worry about that again. And that's just one of those things. If your head coach never has to worry about an area, that just takes such a weight. They don't have to spend mental energy on that. And at this level, your head coach at the Division I level has to deal with so many moving parts, so many things. If they can just remove one thing off of their mental checklist, it makes all the difference. And again, arms was one of those. Scheduling. When I came in, my head coach didn't like to do scheduling, and she said, "How are you with scheduling?" I said, "Teach me. Like you tell me what you want, and I'll make it happen." And so I owned it. I took over scheduling, and that goes along with aligning your vision with your head coach. Like my head coach has a vision of what her schedule she wants it to be, and I have to make sure that whether or not I believe that schedule is the best for the team, I have to align it with my head coach, and then execute that schedule. And I go to at the Final Four every year. I every single thing on scheduling, I go and listen to how I learned something this year that was fascinating. I'm gonna throw it out here right now. There was, and this goes along with analytics. There was a coach that was talking scheduling on a panel. And it's escaping his name is escaping my brain right now. He talked about in your non-conference schedule. And I always thought about, open weekends, your facility is open, they're open, they can play here. He took it to another level. He's like, they have a tendency to lose in the third game of November every year. They're in their non-conference. Like he wanted to schedule certain opponents in certain slots in their schedule because of their tendencies. And that's just taking that analytics to I was like, it blew my mind. I was like, wow. And his team beat, I think it was Tennessee in that third game because they had always had a little letdown in that third game.
Matthew, I think you're speaking into something that triggering for me. You have what I'm calling an owner's mindset. When you take over something, you take it over and you want to learn the most you can about it, and you want to perform and execute at a high level.
There's a difference between I can do that and I can own that, right? Like I know that as a head coach, there are certain things, certain people on my staff, and just because they're new and young, they can do that and it can get done to a certain level. And sometimes I'll say, let them do that because it might not be done exactly how I want it to be done, but it will still relieve some time from me. And there's other things in our program, like Graham, our associate head coach, where pretty much everything I give him, he owns. And it not only can it get done, it can get done to a really high level, and it's completely off my mind. And I think that's a big differentiator for people in any position. It doesn't matter, middle school, high school, business, whatever. Am I checking the box and getting it done for the person that I'm helping, or am I owning it? That's a whole nother level, and that creates a whole nother level of value as well.
My head coach is a legend, and she's forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know. But there's certain areas that she allows me to have a say and gives me, I'm sure she has opinions and knows more than I do on certain things, but like special situations. Mike Neighbors at Arkansas has situation cards, and she had heard about that on some podcast, and she's like, here's Mike Neighbors' contact. Go find out about those situation cards and run with it. And so I did. I called Mike Neighbors. He called me back, took 20 minutes out of his day. And he said, hey, I'll send you everything we got. Sent me over all his. And then, of course, we tailored the situation cards to what, situations that I thought we would use. And she just let me run with that. And that goes to your point, Sam, of a head coach that maybe does have expertise or knows what they want to do, but let an assistant run with something, let them own an area and let them really figure stuff out and bring something to the table.
Matthew, let me flip that around for a second. I don't even know what the answer to this will be, but I think it'll be helpful for me and probably could be helpful for other coaches too. So, as an assistant, you found all these ways to add value, which honestly adds life to people. It adds life to me when I can just give something away and I can divert that attention and energy somewhere else, right? Like it's really life-giving. So it's a gift, to me as a leader.
I will add, and I think that it goes right along with what you guys do at PGC. And I don't know where I heard this. I'm borrowing it from somebody I know, but as a coach, it's not what you know, it's what you can teach. You can be a master at 1-3-1, whatever, zone defense. But if you can't teach it, it doesn't matter, And I think that goes for everything with offense, with decision making, with like there's a gap for a lot of coaches between what you do in practice and then translating to the court in a game, right? And if you can really bridge that gap with efficient teaching as a coach, that's got to be at the top of your skill set, is being able to teach. You are a teacher of the game of basketball.